Good afternoon and welcome to the Corporation of the Town of Kirkland Lake meeting of council held July the 11th, 2017. And before we start our meeting, I have a notice to read. At its meeting of August 15th, 2017, council will, 1, hold a public meeting for the proposed rezoning of land on Highway 112 from rural to mineral extraction. And 2, consider a bylaw to set recreation user fees for Civic Stadium. We'll start our meeting, please, with a moment of silence. Thank you. We have the approval of the agenda.
It's moved by Councillor Mino, seconded by Councillor Morgan, that Council approves the agenda for its regular meeting of July 11th, 2017 as presented.
All in favor? Carried. Thank you. Item 3, is there any declaration of pecuniary interest? None declared. Item 4, petitions and delegations. Tonight we have Elvio Zaghi from Stantec, and Elvio is going to come up and give us an update on the Swastika wastewater treatment plant project. Yes, please.
Thank you.
You're welcome, and welcome.
Tonight we're going to give you a very quick the study kickoff and the introduction for the project, which is the Swastika wastewater pollution control plant decommissioning and the sewer system connection to the Kirkland Lake wastewater treatment plant. The first phase of this project is the class environmental assessment, or Class EA, and the pre-design. Combination of Stantec doing I'm the study lead, Elvio Zaghi, and the project manager, or study manager, Aqua, Asim Masood. And then Eric also here from operations, Aqua Operations. The agenda, this for the overview of this, the agenda is going to be 5 key things. The why, what, where, who, and when. So why are we doing this project? What is this project about? Who will be involved in this project? When will it be completed, and we'll go overview of the next steps as we follow through on this study. Why do this project? There's 3 key reasons for doing it. 1, we're going to save long-term capital and operating costs. The existing pollution control plant, it's old, and it requires substantial upgrades, and there's a high cost to those upgrades. Also, the existing plant consumes excessive energy, and there's a high year-after-year operating cost. The new solution will save substantial operation and maintenance costs, those annual costs, and we'll save them every year. Second key item why we're doing this project is the class environmental assessment, the Class EA, is mandated by the province. This project is funded by the federal and provincial governments. As such, the province, to meet the provincial requirements, we're required to undertake a Class EA. And the third thing why is improve the community. We want to explore creative opportunities to benefit this community. How can we, for instance, service properties along Highway 66? Is there ways of repurposing the existing plant for community use to support the adjacent park? So we're looking at also those value-added opportunities and how do we take advantage of them. What is this project about? Okay, the Class EA is a mandated process by the province, but it guides this project. So we're going to look at the problem issues, we're going to identify them, and we're going to deal with each of the problem issues. All the options will be considered of how solving that problem. We're going to come back and, yes, we're going to evaluate alternative solutions, but come back with a preferred solution that offers the best value. It's not necessarily the cheapest cost. What we're looking at, not upfront cheap, but we really want to look at what are the long-term costs of this infrastructure. And if we bring it back to present value year after year, what is it? And we want to make sure we put a solution in that saves money in the long term. And of course, public and stakeholder consultation is important. We need to reach out to the public and stakeholders in a meaningful way so that they are part of this project. So the project is generally described as 6 key parts. We're going to decommission the existing pollution control plant. The existing pumping station, the Swastika pumping station, we're going to upgrade it. We are going to put new pumps. We got to put a related equipment to be able to pump that sewage now from Swastika back towards Kirkland Lake. To do that, number 3, we're gonna need a new pipe. So that pipe will run along Highway 66, and it will extend from the Substica pumping station back all the way through to the sanitary system for Kirkland Lake. The possibility, we're looking at an intermediate or a new pumping station somewhere in the midway, maybe near that intersection of 112. And we're looking at the possibility of upgrading Chapeau pumping station, and with that, a new buried pipe along Archer Drive to the Kirkland Lake wastewater plant. Those are essentially the 6 pieces that we're looking at. Who will be involved? From the public and stakeholder consultation, it's mandated by the EA. So what we're going to do is we're going to issue a notice. This notice of a commencement of this study, we'll send it to the agency stakeholders and the public, and it'll be direct mailouts to the agencies, but we're also going to put ads in the paper on the website as well. We have a contact list now. It's a draft list. We're going to finalize that in the coming days. That contact list will identify all those who are interested or affected by this project, and they will be kept informed throughout the EA. We'll hold a public meeting to explain the project, and more importantly, to reach out, meaningfully engage the public and stakeholders, and to identify their concerns or give them an opportunity to speak what their concerns are and deal with or address their concerns. And a final report will be prepared. When we look at that contact list, it is a long list. It's going to list all the government agencies, MOE, MNR, MTO, DFO, etc. It's going to also list the First Nations communities, interested stakeholders like railways and utilities. We're looking at also the residents and property owners in Swastika, along Highway 66 to Kirkland Lake, and on Archer Drive. And of course, the general public itself. When will this be completed? There are 4 phases of this project. This particular study, our mandate right now, is to look at the first 2 phases. The class environmental assessment started this past month. It will finish in about December, towards the year end. Second part of our mandate is the preliminary design. It'll start in the coming month. It's about 2 months behind DEA, and it will run till it will complete itself in about March of 2018. We're hoping to do that quicker. And then the next 2 phases of work, number 3 and number 4, is the detailed design approvals and tender. It's creating the design documents to go to construction and the tender. That will happen in the latter half of 2018, with construction approximately in the 2019 to 2020 period. That has not been confirmed yet. When we look at the next steps, so now we're going to focus in. The Class EA has 2 phases, and I've tried to color code this as best as I can, but we're looking at some key things that happen in the coming this week and next week. So we're going to develop a problem statement, get that started. We've got a kickoff meeting that we've had today. We're going to provide a notice of commencement. We have a draft. We need to clean it up. That'll probably be finalized within 1 or 2 days, and we can release it. Also, we're going to meet with the planning department, and that will happen tomorrow. In July, 3 key things we want to do. We want to meet with the MOE and have a pre-consultation meeting with them to engage them on this project. The more we engage them, the easier it becomes and faster. We're also going to look at what is the 20-year sewage treatment needs. We want to have a better idea of what the long term is going to be, so making sure whatever we put in today is good for more than 20 years. Also, the municipality has a lot of information available in its records. We're going to review those records and find out where the gaps are so that we know early on what more information we need to get. In August, 2 key things that will happen, 3 key things. We're going to long list of problem issues. At that point in time, we've been talking to staff. We're now getting that list of issues created. We're also going to reach out to the public and to agencies to get their feedback. From there, that list of issues, that gives us our hit list to resolve. And we'll hold a status review meeting with the technical steering committee approximately a month from now, somewhere between let's say late August to early September. When we get into September, we'll have a public meeting, and we'll finalize the phase 1 work for the problem opportunity statement. We're actually going to define what the problem statement, so it's quite clear what it is. After that, through the course of September all the way through to December, We'll start looking at the alternative solutions and start narrowing down to what is the preferred solution. I did that really fast. If you have questions, I can.
Well, it was very interesting and easy to follow. Thank you for that. I have a question with regards to the laying of the pipe. The pipe, as it comes from Swastika, it'll go alongside of Highway 66. Would it be on the north or the south side of the highway? Or has that been determined?
That hasn't been determined yet. What we want to find, what we know is that water main today crosses the road several times. We need, by regulatory requirements, we need to have separation on the horizontal from that water main. So now what we're looking at is how can we align this pipe in such a way so it doesn't needlessly cross the water main too many times? And we want to step back. Before, our first thoughts were, this is the right of way. We take it up the road right away. But we also want to make sure that there isn't an alternate road. We know the municipality owns quite a bit of land, and we just want to make sure we explore all the options. So we may, we're going to look at other alternatives too, if it isn't just 66. But it will be, if it's in the roadway, it'll be 10 feet deep, 11 feet deep, a conventional type construction.
Okay. And along Highway 66, there's a number of businesses and residences that aren't presently connected to the town's sewage. Will these businesses and residences have first of all, an opportunity to hook to the sewer? And number two, will they be giving ample time to make that decision?
We're looking at the idea, we have to put in a midway pumping station because of the amount of pressure that we need to pump. So we need another pumping station somewhere in the middle. And our thinking is near that section, that intersection of 66 and the main highway there on Government Road, 66 and 112. But that seems to be the right spot right now. So we're looking at how can we take advantage of that pumping station to provide future servicing for those existing residents. They may not need to connect right now. They may not want to connect now. But how do we make this infrastructure flexible enough that we could connect them in the future? And there's several options we thought of today. We had a spitball session of how to do this. And there's probably a handful of ways of doing it. We just need to figure out a way that makes the most sense and is affordable. I wouldn't want to put a pipe in today that sits there for 10 or 15 years and not being fully used. So we're looking at different ways of doing it, but we're cognizant of that.
Okay. Any other questions? Well, certainly, we look at this project as definitely an investment to our community for the present and going into the future. And we want to thank you for coming here today to give us this update.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Okay.
Does the press have any questions for this? I'm only asking because if they want to, if they don't want to stay for the whole meeting, if you had anything to ask them, I don't mind waiting a minute or two. This way you just don't have to. Is that fine? Okay. Okay, we'll reconvene the meeting, and thank you for your patience. We have the acceptance of the minutes and recommendations.
It's moved by Councillor Morgan, seconded by Councillor Mino, that Council accepts the minutes of the following meetings. The Tech Pioneer Committee of Management held March 6, 2017. The meeting to open sealed tenders for grade utility, concrete curb, gutter, boulevard, sidewalk, and asphalt paving for O'Meara Boulevard held April 6, 2017. And the regular meeting of Council held June 20th, 2017.
All in favor? It's carried. Thank you. Reports of municipal officers and communications. Item 6.1. Jen, you're going to come up, the 2016 financial review and the 2017 budget booklet.
So the financial review and the 2017 budget, this is just our regular little booklet that we provide for the residents. It's a summary of the consolidated financial statements. We just highlight the main things, our balance sheet and our income statement, and then we do a little pie chart to see how our revenue and expenses were portioned out. We also have in there, so our 2017 operating and capital budget is also a nice concise package for them. So we print off copies, and this will be at the front counter with Sue, and we'll also be posting this on the website.
Okay.
It's moved by Counselor Mino, seconded by Counselor Morgan, that council approves the tax booklet, 2016 financial review and 2017 budget, and that it be made available to the public as required by the Municipal Act.
All in favor? That's carried, thank you.
So there's lots of things that happen after we pass our financial statements on the June 20th date. So the next one being that the financial disclosure requirements. So this is just something that we have to adopt a resolution to make everyone cognizant that in our budget, we do not budget for amortization, post-employment benefit expenses, and landfill post-closure costs. So this is just a report to make you all aware that that is not included in our 2017 budget. And going forward.
So it's moved by Counselor Morgan, seconded by Counselor Mino. The council approves and adopts the report prepared by the town treasurer addressing the financial disclosure requirements under Ontario Regulation 26409.
All in favor?
284. Right? Yeah, okay.
Yep, thank you. All in favor? It's unanimous, thank you. Carried.
Okay, so we're now into the middle of July, and our second quarter financial report is in front of you guys. So I'll just do a high-level overview, and I'll just stop after each division. If there's any questions, we'll just carry on or not. So there's just a few things to highlight at the beginning. We pay for our insurance, our corporate policy in May, and it just hasn't been distributed out to every department yet, so we're working on that in our Treasury Department. And the inventory has not yet been expensed for the April and June. So, you know, most of our budgets are fairly in line, but there are still some items that need to be expensed throughout some departments. So starting at corporate services, in admin, there's just you know, we're currently sitting kind of under budget year to date. There's quite a few transfers that happen at year end, and then there's also the employee recognition party that occurs towards the end of the year. And then also some annual leases and encroachments. Those are all billed out at the beginning of year, so there's more revenue at the beginning, but our budget is spread over 12 months. In the treasury, we're showing under budget right now. We had some early retirements in the department that came on earlier than had anticipated. Our penalty and interest that we've collected so far to date is also greater than budgeted. We've had some changes in the way that we're accounting for our tax sale properties. We're leaving it on screen versus before we used to transfer it all off screen and manage it manually. We're allowing our financial software to manage that for us now. And another item was money that we obtained from the courts from prior year tax sales. So we never budget for that. That's something that's unbudgeted, and we've received $30,000 to date so far. So we're looking good at this point. But again, we're only 6 months in. Fire, you know, we're only $13,000 under budget at this point in time. It's just mostly in their salaries. They've had a retirement as well. So there's that's going on. In the police forces, this is a transfer payment. One of the transfer payments we're just one in behind, and this will all be caught up. We always ensure that there's 12 OPP payments at the end of the year. We just play catch up with it. And also there's another, I had mentioned this the last time, there's a police services board grant that we've received 100% funding for yet and have not paid for all of those expenses. So I'm just going to keep going into the economic development and tourism section. Economic development tourism is showing that they're very under budget. There's quite a few budgets for consultants to take on some projects. One project has started already, the Fire Services Master Plan. There's a few other tourism things that we were hoping to be funded through NOHFC, and those have not yet begun. There was also an RED project that was fully funded, but that has not started, and I've been communicating with Wilf, so we'll let you know when and if those projects get going. And again, there's some transfers in there. The Centennial Committee reserve for 20,000, that transfer doesn't happen until the end of the year. So it looks like we're under budget. The management information systems is slightly under budget right now, but we are one support payment behind for the hospital. So that'll eat it up once we get those payments. And same thing with TPR, we're generally behind on the KDH payments. Museum is pretty close. It kind of looks like they're close on budget. However, to note that the same with the library, we don't receive that Ministry of Tourism grant or the Ministry of Culture grant until the end of the year. And also, we haven't spent a lot of their expenses because they've got quite a bit more programming that happens in the summer months versus in the wintertime. Heritage North, again, their wedding season and rental season is just more so ramping up right now, so they haven't hit their revenue targets like we had anticipated right now. Is there any questions to date, or you guys are good with me keeping going? Okay, so with the Tech Pioneer, their operations, there has been some sick time, and most of that is completed now. So we're on track with our regularly scheduled staff for the majority of it. Again, like I had mentioned, there's some KDH billings we're generally behind for their heat, the hydro, food and labor and stuff like that. And then their TPR loan is paid twice a year, February and August, and we're mid-year, so that's why it's looking right on target right now. Recreation, well, the crossing guards are now completed their term for this part of the school year. We'll start up again in September. Childcare, we're just, we're wrapping it up, but we've disbanded as of December 31st, and there's just some expenses in the budget is spread out over 12 months, so that'll clean itself all up.
Yes, Councillor Kiley.
Jen, can I just go back to the TPR loan? How many years left on that? Do you know roughly?
No, it's in the tax booklet.
28,
Oh, okay.
2028.
The TPR loan is 20 years in 2008, so 2028.
Okay.
So roughly 11.
Okay, thank you.
And that's with the OSIF. No, sorry, not OSIFA. So it's locked in for that term. Okay, going down to recreation. The hydro is under budget, but like I had mentioned before, the budget is spread over 12 months, and we see peak times in winter and August when we have startup and keeping it in. So it looks under budget, but it will equalize at the end of the year. We reported in Q1 that the ice rental was higher. The ice rental revenue was higher, but again, we have lots of ice rentals at the beginning of the year, so now it's starting to slow out and get closer to budget as we spread over the 12 months. We're kind of under budget in the repairs and maintenance under the in ice. However, there are the regular ice plant maintenance that will be happening soon, so those expenses will happen throughout the summer. And again, summer students just started up to middle of May, beginning of June, so now we're starting to see those wages expense, whereas they're budgeted over the 12 months. And we've also received 2 sources of funding in the Parks and Recreation, and yet we haven't expensed it. We've received some funding from KDCDC for a civic sign, and then we've received a seniors community grant for some additional programs that Kim Clockers has been working on. So we haven't expensed all that, so that's why our revenue's higher. For the library, like I had mentioned with the museum, we don't get that ministry grant until the end of the year, so it looks like we're over budget, because we budget for that revenue. And they've hired their students, and they're very well at their kind of planning out their wages, so they're fairly on target. Okay, physical services. They're showing over budget because the cemeteries just opened up in May-ish, so now the summer interments are starting and have increased revenue at that time. But again, it's spread over the 12 months. And also, the summer students are just starting now too, so we're starting to see those expenses for the summer student wages. Airport is showing over budget. We're just need to handle the expensing of the airport fuel. It was changed to an inventory item and it got expensed out, so we're gonna rectify that for the next quarter. And this is something that by going through the budgets detailed like this quarterly, we can pick up on these things and make sure that they get cleaned up before things happen for too long. The planning and building budget, we haven't started all of the building demolitions yet, so that's showing about 15,000 under budget. And also, we have an employee on leave right now, so those wages aren't being spent out. Residential development is negligible. The engineering department is fairly close. We're under budget, but then again, the interns just started in May, I believe both of them did. So now their wages will carry into the next year too. Roads is always and then we've got our loan payments that are budgeted and spread over the 12 months for all three of them. So roads is a big one. You guys are all aware that union negotiations are postponed to the fall, so the legal's under budget. There's quite a few, like asphalt and material and supplies. And as I had mentioned before, there's some inventory items that hadn't been expensed, so that's a big one for sand and winter salt. Hasn't been handled yet. So again, asphalt and concrete, those departments or line items haven't been spent out, and a lot of materials and supplies have been spent out, like gravel and calcium and stuff like that. So again, we budget on a 12-month basis, but there's certain things that happen at certain times of the year, and summer maintenance is a big part. But then again, when we talk about snow, now it's kind of showing that it's over budget when you look at the 6-month mark. Well, that's because we do a big chunk of snow in January to April, and then hopefully not a whole lot in November, December, but we'll have enough to cover us. But just now at that 6-month period, it looks like you're over budget. So waste management, we haven't yet paid for the material household hazardous waste event. So it's showing that we're under budget. We've also not yet received our second quarter Blue Box payment. We haven't paid out all of our landfill closure costs. But we haven't started all of the capping yet, so we haven't paid those expenses, so it's looking as though we're under budget at this point in time. So that's the operational departments. Turning on to the next page, I know the DSAB ones, they kind of look like we're not on target, but again, their budget is not the same fiscal as ours. But by the end of December, it will rectify itself. The transfers to the capital, that doesn't happen until the end of the year once we've finished all of our capital projects. So coming into our operating revenues, we had a discussion about this last time. So we've levied all of our taxes now. We've sent out all the tax bills. And because our budget is spread out over the 6 months, that's why it looks like our year-to-date budget, we should have only levied 4.7, but we've levied all of our taxes to this point in time. Tax write-offs are ongoing as we get MPAC, RFRs, and 357s. Those adjustments happen all the time, and we've processed many of our charity rebates already and vacancy rebates. Our OMPF, we know what that is. We get that on a quarterly basis. Land sales and rental, that's what our best projection of what we anticipate to sell on land for this year. And the POA, we're always kind of behind on their quarterly payments. So that's our major operating budgets. If there's any questions, I will, if not, we'll proceed into waterworks and sanitation. Oops. Okay, so the water bills have gone out, and as of the date of this printing, it had not yet been posted, so that's why the revenue is looking under budget, but all those bills should be posted in there now. And again, you know, there's lots of activities that happen in the waterworks department that happens on a seasonal basis. So currently our materials and supplies and repairs and maintenance accounts are down about 40-some thousand. And then the biggest other discrepancy is the Gull Lake pumping station. All of our repairs and maintenance accounts that we have estimated to do some repairs to, those repairs haven't been completed it, or we have not yet needed them to do it, so we're under budget, and we're behind a hydro bill payment for the pumping station. Just to note, for the actual reserve fund transfer for both the waterworks and the wastewater fund, I know it was communicated last year that we wanted to see those transfer happen on a quarterly basis, so it is reported here for reporting purposes, but the physical transfer of funds has not occurred, and I won't do that until year end, just for an ease of cash flow in our operational budgets. Okay, so same thing, moving down into sanitation. It looks like we're under budget for the wastewater levy, but again, it's at the time of this printing, the bills had not been posted, but they're now posted, so we're running on target. And then the biggest one is the sewage treatment plant. We're under budget, and the actual hydro is under budget at this time. I've counted the bills, so I know they have been working on, since we've communicated a lot about our hydro concerns. They have been trying different things to bring it in line. I mean, I can't speak to the specifics about how they run the clarifier and how often they run the digester thing, but I can certainly look into that and bring it back. I know, Todd, you're still looking, I still need to do that usage thing, and Anthony from Aqua did provide me with prior historical stuff for me to compare to now, so it's just a matter of me digging out that information, because it's not in a nice spreadsheet format like LAS provides to me. So it's just time consuming. And then another thing too, why we're under budget is, I say we've issued out the tax bills. However, there's just some tax bills that are issued. We still have to pay a tax bill for the sewage treatment plant in Swastika and Kirkland Lake, so those haven't been completed yet. And then just a general comment for both of them is that I do monitor the salaries in between both of them, and currently the salaries are slightly under budget between both of them, so I'm just monitoring that to make sure that we can do the transfer that we had anticipated in both funds. So that's complete operations.
Councillor Kiley.
Yeah, just a general comment. Jen, for the first 6 months, we're actually in pretty decent shape compared to some other years. A lot happens in the next 6 months as well, but we're progressing quite well.
Yeah, the next quarter will be better for us, because that's when a lot of the summer things will have happened, and we will have paid most of that stuff, and so we'll have hopefully a better picture going into the last quarter.
Okay, thank you.
Councillor Mino.
Jen, I forgot to congratulate you on the brochure prior, so that's my little baby. I like that, because that's a very good statement for the public to have. But you mentioned cash flow. How is our cash flow? Is it healthy? till
It
year
is,
end?
so right now, we get our, OMPF payments in January, April, July. So we'll be getting another one shortly, and our tax bills are also gone out, so the due dates are the 21st of July and August 18th. So we maintain a fairly healthy during the summer. It's just, once we start getting past that August 18th deadline, and also, we're in a little bit better position right now because we were so late in hearing about the Clean Water Wastewater Fund. So we haven't started any major large road construction projects, whereas in prior years, we would have commenced those already. So we're not horrible at this point in time, but I just know as the summer progresses and as our tax bills have come out and people have come in already by the due dates to make those payments, we'll be lean till we get our next our OMPF transfer payments in the
Yeah.
fall.
You also mentioned some payments you make monthly and all that. Are we in an interest-paying situation?
No.
So we're always on time,
We
and so
do.
that's not an issue there?
Yeah, that is something that's managed by accounts payable, and she ensures that we adhere to their net 30 days, and she received the statements to make sure that, you know, she's on top of the other departments. Hey, I should be paying this one soon. Send it down to me, please. Because that's
And-
something we definitely don't want to start doing, is getting
And-
into paying interest.
Just another question on the pool. At which point or at which time should we be looking at the debenture?
The debenture itself won't happen until next year when pool construction is complete, but we will have to revisit the line of credit option by next meeting.
By next meeting?
So August.
So to arrive at the paying off the pool, or because we do it gradually as we go, we need to go into the line of credit, not into a debenture?
No, so back in 2000 when we initially started this project, I think it was in 15, we got a construction line of credit with Royal Bank. So we're using a construction line of credit to make our payments. And then once actual construction is complete, then we will debenture that construction line of credit into a loan. And that's not necessarily that will remain with the current financial institution, and that's something
Yeah.
that we'll put out again.
Okay.
But that's once construction is complete. So we're going on a construction line of credit until that's done.
Okay, thank you.
Yep, you're welcome.
Jen, I have just a question on the hydro. Like, I know the residential property owners are seeing some relief on their hydro bills. Do municipalities, are they able to take that same advantage?
We have seen, so at the beginning of the year, there was that, there was a rebate, and I know it was mentioned that we were receiving it, but this additional rebate is for residential properties only, and it won't be applicable
So
to
we
us.
won't get any part of that other 17% or?
Not that I've been communicated to right now. I mean, I'll definitely look into that to confirm that, but nothing else has come down from.
Okay, thank you.
So capital is fairly short and sweet. Many of our capital projects happen later on in the summer. So, I mean, if there's any questions, there's only kind of 10 or so that have started. So I'm hoping that by the third quarter, you know, we'll have more to report on at that point in time, but if there are any questions on the capital budget of it all.
Okay, I see no questions, so.
Okay. Okay, so 2 more to go. So this was I did bring a report to council back last year, and we're requesting that we write off the taxes and recuperate the school board portion last year on this property. I'm requesting that we do the same for these 2 properties, but allow me to do this annually until the property sells. So we've advertised these 2 properties for sale. As you can see by the map, they are out in no man's land. We've never received any interest on the properties. We have no intention of vesting, as there could pose potential environmental liabilities. So I'm proposing that we write off the taxes annually and recuperate the funds from the school boards. Because if we just leave it as taxes to continue to accrue, our receivables go up and we don't have that opportunity to recuperate from the school boards. And even though that we are writing off the taxes, should this property sell any point in time, we'll put all these taxes back on and recuperate these funds
And we would also have to pay the school board then.
at that
Back,
time.
okay.
Yeah.
Makes sense. Yes, please.
I have a resolution that's moved by Councillor Mino, seconded by Councillor Morgan, that council approves the town treasurer to write off taxes on roll numbers 54680000163640000000 and 546800163660100000 as uncollectible for 2017 and future years.
All in favor? Carried, thank you.
Okay, so the next one is, there's been lots of discussions with MPACT and how everybody's been very unhappy with their process and how appeals are just, everybody's appealing their assessment and there's, MPACT just kind of doesn't defend their assessment. So previously, what it used to be was municipalities had the option to sign a waiver that would allow MPACT to kind of act in our best interest and on our behalf. And quite frankly, there's generally not that expertise in many tax departments to be able to defend that ourselves. So most municipalities had signed that waiver and allowed MPACT to be the main proponent in the appeals process. There's been lots of discussion and change, so the Assessment Review Board has brought forth new rules and practices for processing the appeals, and this, because we're now in the first year of this next 4-year phase-in cycle, so they've brought these new rules in. 3 of the main things that we are mandated to do, well, we can pass these things at council. So we have to provide a list of properties that the municipality would prefer be heard earlier rather than later in this current assessment cycle. So we need to provide that. They're saying right now that due days will be September 1st. So we've got a month and a half to come up with our most sensitive properties. We must provide the Assessment Review Board with the contact information for an appeal representative. So this is where I talked about that waiver, but now we will be appointing appeal representative. So what this person will be responsible for is when we receive appeals, we'll need to respond. If we don't respond, the ARB will take that meaning that we have no wish to be party to the appeal, and they will just carry on with their process with the 2 other parties. So the ball is now in the municipality's court to ensure that they stay on top of everything. And once you miss out on that initial, yes, I want to be part of it, you will not be included on any of the communication when they set the dates for everything. So between myself and Ryan will be, as a tax collector, we're going to be staying on top of this stuff. And generally, though, I've sat in on quite a few webinars, and one of the biggest concerns was, as a small municipality, when we go to the appeal to the Assessment Review Board, the majority of our biggest concerns are these big box stores, and it's gone as a group and it's not individuals. That's still going to be the same process. So I think this is going to be a learning game. Actually, what role are we going to play in a large appeal process if every single one of these municipalities are designated their own special appeals representative? So that was one of the questions that were raised, and they didn't have a solid, concrete answer on that one yet. And that's the one that I'm most concerned about, because that's the one that has the biggest financial effect on us. You know, there's lots of people that appeal their property assessments, but the property assessment, and when it equates to tax revenue, is not in the hundreds of thousands, whereas these large box stores are. They're much smaller in nature. So that was the number 2 thing. And the number 3 thing that we have to do is we need to identify a complaints representative and submit this information to the board. So if we don't speak to this at council right now and appoint people, all of that responsibility and delegation would revert back to the clerk. So I'm suggesting that myself and the tax collector manage that. Mainly Ryan will be reviewing this stuff, and it'll just be myself to ensure that all the i's are dotted and the t's are crossed, and so that I'm aware of everything that goes on when we come up to council. But Ryan will also be the main person in a lot of these cases. So that's what I'm recommending to council today, that they pass the treasurer as the appeals representative, and that the municipal clerk will be the complaints representative. They suggested that it not be the same person, so that's why there's two different people.
Councillor Kiley.
Yes, Jen, has there been an increase in appeals in commercial industrial? Or are we recently, or are we still where we were at 6 months ago?
We're just still where we're at. We haven't signed those minutes of settlement with Loblaws. We did, however, sign it with Canadian Tire, but those were for prior years, right?
Yeah.
And yes, they have put in again for this assessment cycle, as they do when they're in those large groupings, right? They group up the whole Loblaws group and they submit it as a whole.
That's really not, that's really not fair to the municipalities, is it? Because, you know, ours, some may be over-assessed, and our individual one might be, or two might be under-assessed. So it's, they put everybody in the same. I guess it's less work, but it's not to the advantage of the municipality.
It's not, and that is one thing, when I was reading what the duties are of each party that will be involved in the ARB process, I mean, that's something that we have always had the opportunity to provide information, and now, because we're gonna say that, yes, we are interested in being a party to the appeal, we want all communication, that will be at the point where we can say, look, you know, there's no reason why this assessment is incorrect. Look at all these, and these factors that pertain to our municipality specific. So that will make sure that we communicate that information by those deadlines that were set for
Pertaining
us.
to ours. Like,
Yeah, and that's all we can continue to do when they do those large appeals.
Councillor Morgan, or Councillor Mino, excuse me.
You did it again. Jen, the process itself, there's going to be an appeal person and there's going to be a complaints person. Now, is that a physical movement of you going to, say, Toronto or Ryan?
No, so I know that was one of the things in here. The majority of these are all held through teleconference. All the ones that I've been sitting on are teleconference. There have been the odd ones where it's been a physical, you'd have to go there. But I do remember, it was maybe 6 or 7 years ago, there was an ARB hearing here in council chambers for properties in this area. So I would suggest that, and if it came to that, when we're on those teleconferences, that if you want to appeal our properties and manage them, well, you should be coming to our location and not making us travel to there. Because the people who are involved are based here locally, aside from those large box store type people.
Yeah, but what assurances do we have? Because
I don't have
I'm just
any.
taking budgetary commitment. And the other question is, at which point does council get involved into giving you the green light or giving you the red light or discussing some of these issues?
And so that's, we don't have a very extensive delegation of authority bylaw that delegates this certain authority to this person, this certain authority to this person, and this certain authority. My interpretation as the treasurer of the municipality and under the Municipal Act that's delegating financial responsibility to ensure the safe collection of municipal funds, and the same as we delegated authority to the tax collector to ensure fair collection of taxes. It's in our best, we are looking out for the best interests of the municipality to ensure that we're not going to be settling on a settlement that's going to stand for us to lose
So
20s of
you
hundreds
would
of
be
thousands.
pursuing anything that's negatively affecting
Yes.
our budget or taxpayers?
Yeah, to ensure that we protect our tax levy and our budget. We want to ensure that that's properly managed and that we are advocating on our behalf for that. And if there will be any any major ones, you know, we're gonna be having scheduled meetings, and we'll be aware that, okay, on this meeting, we're discussing this, and then the next scheduled meeting will be at this time, whether it be for mediation, to talk about minutes of settlement, so there will be an opportunity in between the two of them, if there's any large sums of money, to be able to bring that information to council to receive, if, you know, if council has a different direction for staff.
Well, that's where I'm leading to,
Yeah.
is at least we should have a shot at collectively giving you direction one way or another.
Yes,
But that's how I'm asking, is how would the process be implemented?
so everything that I've been reading is that it's not, we're not gonna get on a teleconference call and say, oh, we need to settle this right now, we're gonna make a decision about, you're gonna lose $10,000 in tax revenue. You start off with, this is the meeting, everybody's presenting their sides, and then it goes to whether we go to mediation or we go directly to settlement. There'll be a time span in between the two, at which point we can discuss if there's any huge adverse effects that we foresee
Yeah.
for the municipality.
Okay, thank you.
Councillor Kiley.
Yes, Jen, as far as the timeframes that you can appeal, there hasn't been any change in that?
No.
I mean, what's the longest they've ever gone back that we've been involved?
Oh, going back to appeal prior year's assessment?
Yeah. Would they go-
Well,
they
a
won't
couple
go
years
back?
ago, it was gone back to 2008. They appealed back
So 7
to,
or 8 years even.
yeah, that big one was back in 13 or 14, so yeah, 5 or 6 years that they were able to go back and appeal. And that's no different than what happened with those big mill properties out.
Out in Terrace Bay and,
Yeah,
Yeah,
those
Thunder
were
Bay or-
huge appeals for assessments that had gone back quite a few years.
makes it tough for the municipalities, that's for sure.
Yep, most definitely.
Okay, I guess that'll be coming back.
Yeah.
Item 6(1)E, come back and as a bylaw later in the,
And I'd just like to comment too that, so these rules were supposed to be, you know, provide all this information July 1st to the ARB. We have just started hearing webinars in the past 3 weeks about this information, so I'm sure as more municipalities start to adopt their resolutions and bylaws, there may be more questions that are asked of the ARB for clarification. And if we do need further, to speak to your point, Councillor Mino, about if there has to be a specific delegation that, no, we have found out that we'll need to know that minute on the teleconference call, I may have to come back to council and change that, where you are delegating authority to the clerk or the treasurer, tax collector to make those on-the-spot decisions. But that's something that we're gonna have to work through in the next little while, as every other municipality starts to adopt this. So,
okay. Jen, you might just make yourself comfortable for one more minute, because I believe you might be able to share some information
Oh.
under item 6(2)A. So, do you have a?
This was a resolution that we had gotten in from Township of, I believe it was East Nipissing, which actually was supported by them, and it came from the municipality of Killarney. And it had to do with changes to the Bill 68, the Modernizing Ontario's Municipal Legislation Act, and the out-of-court payments. And Jen can explain a little more about the out-of-court payments. And this has to do with the tax sales, and when a property goes through tax sale, the money doesn't come directly to the municipality, it goes into the courts. And then after a certain period of time, I believe it's about a year, that the municipality can go back and apply to the courts to have that money brought back. And what they're trying to do, or what they have done, because this bill has already passed, is that to make it go to the Crown, that the municipality no longer gets to apply for those funds. And so there are a few municipalities who are just, it's probably not going to do anything, but they just want to let the province know that they're not happy with the changes that have been made.
So Jen, maybe you could shed some light or give us an example of what this affects.
yeah, sorry, Joanne explained it great, that right now, when we have a tax sale, if there's excess funds, so if we advertise for sale that the property is for $5,000 and we end up selling the property for $20,000, we make sure that we cover all of our costs, and that excess of 15 gets put into the courts. And as she explained, after a year, nobody's claimed that $15,000 from the courts, we apply, and we're able to receive that money. So in our budget, how I said Treasury Department is showing really good right now, because we've received $30,000 so far out of the courts. Since 2013, we've accumulated a good chunk of change, about just slightly over $100,000 from this. And it is unfortunate, however, that this Bill 68 has already passed and received third reading in the legislation. So, I mean, we can support this resolution all we want, but I don't know how much weight it's going to hold up there. The good thing is, however, is that they have not yet set a date to when this actually applies. So, I mean, let's go and register all of our properties right now, because as we register a tax certificate on the properties before they enact a date, we're able to apply the old rules, and that we would still be able to receive that money out of the courts after a year. We are continuously registering our properties. I know Megan's getting another batch ready to go. We can't just go and run and register all of our properties, but it will have, like she had mentioned, a significant hit for smaller municipalities, because most smaller municipalities do most of their own tax sales, and that's where they see, like you've seen, a good chunk of revenue generation. So it's just too bad that maybe this wasn't highlighted before it was passed as a serious issue, right? But anyways.
Sure, it's like while our community doesn't always support all these different resolutions coming our way, I think this one, and for examples that were given tonight, is good reason why we should support this.
Yep.
And maybe if all the municipalities do this, the government might look, or keep postponing that date.
Well, keep
until-
postponing it, that would be our bonus.
Okay,
Yep.
so we have a
It's moved by Councillor Morgan, seconded by Councillor Mino. Whereas the Council of the Town of Kirkland Lake has received Resolution 17-198 from the Municipality of Killarney, requesting that the Minister of Municipal Affairs reconsider the proposed changes under Bill 68, which would revert out-of-court payments from municipalities back to the Crown. Be it therefore resolved that the Council of the Town of Kirkland Lake supports the Municipality of Killarney in their request to the Minister of Municipal Affairs to reconsider the proposed changes under Bill 68 pertaining to out-of-court payments. Be it further resolved that a copy of this resolution be forwarded to the Premier of Ontario, the Minister of Municipal Affairs, John Bantoff, MPP, Phenom, and AMO.
All in favor? It's carried, thank you. Okay, item B.
Okay, this is a request from Travis Carey, who is the chairman for Kirkland Lake Pro-Life. This will be their 25th year of holding the pro-life chain in Kirkland Lake, and they're asking for it for Sunday, October 1st. So it's a resolution from Councillor Mino, seconded by Councillor Morgan, that council approves the request from the Kirkland Lake Pro-Life to hold the International Life Chain on Sunday, October 1st, 2017, from 2 p.m. to 3 p.m.
All in favor? Carried, thank you. Okay, Bonnie, you're gonna come up. Item 6.3A, 2017 and 18 ice season. I can recall a while back, you said you were gonna come back and talk to us on this issue, so
That's right.
welcome
So
back.
now that we've got a bit more information on our energy costs in 2017 dollars, I was able to figure out exactly what it costs us to hold ice for a day, a week, or a month. So a while ago, we decided to tighten up the ice schedule with a recommendation from council in August. So last year in 2016, we started our ice season August 2nd, and this year we're starting it August 14th. So that definitely has some cost savings. And I was directed to look at the spring as well as the last 2 weeks of August again. So I'll give you a couple of different pieces of information here. There's 3 recommendations that I have, and it's a tough one, because either the goal is to satisfy the request of the user group, or the goal is to try to do some cost savings because our energy costs are so high right now. So they don't go hand in hand, unfortunately. It's going to be one or the other. So I'll try to give you a bit of information. The recommendations that I've indicated here, we could stay the same. And this, what I've been directed in the past to do is, if there's a request from a user group that is reasonable in terms of ice time in the shoulder seasons, which is typically April and August, to satisfy them, if it makes sense. So We've typically run a couple of hockey schools in the fall, and in the spring, our main user group is the skating club. So that would be one option. The next would be to reduce the ice season in April, and you'll see once I get to the figures why I've, for this report, just focused on the April, because the revenue does not cover the utilities. And I'll talk about what the impact is on the skating club in a moment. And the other thing that we could look at, and it was brought up in the past, was do we want to charge a surcharge for the shoulder season? So I've just given you an indication of some of the municipalities in northeastern Ontario, what they charge for their shoulder season. So it ranges from 30 to 45% more. Based on the number of hours we rent, a surcharge for shoulder season would not cover the dollars it costs us to hold ice. So it would be a minimal impact, but not cover it at all. So if you take a look at the options and discussions, here's actually the figures based on a comparison of 2016 and 2017 utility bills. It's over $14,000 more a month to have the ice in than when the ice is not in. So it is substantial, and it does mean that we should be looking at what our rentals are. So for the past ice season in April, I did the third week in April and then kind of moving backwards the second week and the first week just to show you what the revenues were. And then I also show what the revenues were for the 2 hockey schools. So it was 2016 revenues, but I've indicated the date for 2017. Yes, there are implications. We'll start with the easiest one first. So the easiest is the fall. And the reason I say it's easiest is that the revenues that we are able to obtain do cover just the energy cost. It's not other costs, but it does cover the energy cost. So if we keep to about the middle of August, we seem to be satisfying all of our user groups. Minor hockey and skating club are our big youth user groups, and they do not start until September. Gold miners this year, their first ice booking is August 21st. So gold miners have ranged between the 14th of August and I think it was September 2nd over the last 5 years. So they kind of they start somewhere in those last couple of weeks. So to start with ice middle of August, we are satisfying all the requests that we have. If we take a look at April, because this is kind of the one that I think that we need to have some discussion on. The 3 groups that have rented ice in April in 2017 were the Kirkland Lake Skating Club, we've had some private rentals, and we've had Rec League. So the last 2 are fairly easy. Rec League, they would just end their season earlier. So what they do is when they're doing playoffs, they just figure out when is the last day of ice, and they just schedule so that they have a couple of games potentially up into that point. So they would just shorten up their season. Their impact would not be, wouldn't be too controversial. For private rentals, we just know that as long as we keep the ice in, there's going to be those people that'll come and do private rentals. And we really encourage that because that helps offset the cost. Everybody waits until the last minute. They all take advantage of the last minute ice, so they're all paying half price, but we'd rather them come and pay half price than not rent it out. So the group that we really would affect would be the skating club. So I spoke to 2 different people. I spoke to both the Skate Canada regional rep and to one of the local skating coaches, just to say what would be the impact if we dropped a week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks. So what the skating club does is they run a 5-week spring school. And their spring school is giving the skaters opportunities to do a final test before their summer break. And it's also to introduce some of the kids that were perhaps in other sports during the year to come and try skating. So it's kind of like an intro level as well for maybe a kid that did dance or skiing or hockey or whatever it may be during the winter months. What happens with skating world is Timmins, New Liskeard, and Kirkland Lake are the region, and they are awarded what's called a high test day. So Kirkland Lake will host a low test day, and one of those 3 municipalities will host a high test day. A high test day is for the most senior skaters to be able to test. And typically, whoever is awarded the test day, whether it's New Liskeard, Timmins, or Kirkland Lake, gets to pick the day they want the test day on. And they typically always pick the last day of ice. So New Liskeard and Timmins and Kirkland Lake traditionally have had their last day of ice all the same for the past number of years. So probably if New Liskeard or Timmins is awarded the test day, they'll pick the last day they can. And if Kirkland's ice goes out a week or 2 earlier, then that's a detriment to those senior skaters. In speaking with the coaches, they want to skate the day before their test. So it doesn't behoove them to skate 3 weeks, have a week off, and then have a test date in their sport. So I'm not familiar with their sport, but that's how it's been explained to me. If Kirkland Lake was awarded the test day, they could pick the last day of ice, which potentially could be a week or a day or whatever earlier. I asked how many kids does this really impact? Because there's spring school, you know, it doesn't have a lot of kids on the ice compared to the regular season, but there's a good number out there. There's probably only about 5 or 6 kids that go to the high test day. The rest can do low test day. Low test day can be held in the municipality on any day they pick. So, for example, if the last day of ice was, I'll say April 20th, low test day could be April 20th. If the last day of ice was April 18th, low test day could be then. However, the regional high test day could be later on in the season. That's where they feel there'd be a concern. So would taking out the ice earlier impact the skating club negatively? It would for the senior skaters that are relying on a high test day. So I know that's a lot of information to swallow, but I thought it's important that we kind of know who it affects. The numbers are minimal, but that's not to say it's not important for those 5 skaters.
Councillor Roman?
Just out of curiosity, if it was being held in one of the other municipalities, could the local kids travel to there and skate in advance of their high test?
Yes, that has been done in the past as well, and that's what the Skate Canada rep told me. The Skate Canada rep, of course, sees things a little bit more broad, and she said there's many opportunities. The kids from Kirkland, if they really wanted to test, they can go to North Bay, they can go to Sudbury. They've got opportunities to test in some communities in the summer months. So she kind of painted it a little bit differently, just that there's many more opportunities out there. When you speak to our local skating coaches, they really want their kids to skate here the day before the test and then test. But there are opportunities, yes.
Okay, thanks.
So Bonnie, just so I understand, if Timmins is awarded the high test day
Yes.
and their ice comes out April 30th, then our skating club are sort of asking us to keep our ice in until April 29th.
Absolutely. That's exactly right, yes.
Okay. All right.
So for the last number of years, our ice has stayed in till the end of April for the skating club. And I mean, as you can see through the numbers, the revenue drops. Their revenue is staying the same. Every week they're renting the same numbers of ice. It's the other groups that are deteriorating in numbers, only because I think it's getting nicer and they're hitting the golf course, perhaps, depending on when things are opening or they're just spending time outside, so.
Okay, because I remember when we talked about this before, part of the problems, and I think the skating club was identified as, part of the problem last time was that we didn't let them know at the beginning of the year.
Correct.
And now we are going to let all the groups know at the beginning of the
Yes.
year so
Yes.
that there's no surprises.
Yes.
So the decision is how long will we keep the ice in the spring?
Yes.
And do we anticipate having our outdoor ice in April?
Probably not, just because it gets
I'm
quite
just thinking
costly
that-
to hold
would
it
that
too.
be- Yeah, they
Yeah.
could use that.
Yeah,
but
this year we
probably
took
not.
it out right after March break, and that was based on, numbers, utilities, just as the weather changes. As it gets warmer, that chiller has to work pretty hard outside, so.
Yeah, in the sun. Yes, Councillor Roman.
Another question, do we know in advance when, or who has next year's high test?
No, I don't believe that's been awarded yet, no.
And does it rotate every third year it gets to Kirkland?
Kind of. Now, that's how they was explained that, they all bid on it, kind of, and they get awarded it. But I think Kirkland has received it, I believe, less off than the other places. I shouldn't say that. I may not be clear on that. It makes sense. It would just go 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. I just don't think it's that simple, the way they made it
And we
sound.
don't know for 2018?
Councillor Kiley?
Yeah, my only comment, Bonnie, I can appreciate Skate Canada providing input. We asked them to. In all fairness, they're not up here, they're not the volunteers up here, and I appreciate what they're saying, but all the local clubs, users are struggling for membership and volunteers, so appreciate what they say. Also, I appreciate more what the volunteers say. It's going to be a bit of a struggle for some of them.
And you know what? She is a Skate Canada rep. She's actually a Kirkland Laker. So she gets the club. She gets Kirkland Lake Club. She has now moved on to an affiliation with Skate Canada. So sorry if I didn't make that clear. So she is a Skate Canada regional rep, but she resides in Kirkland Lake.
Councillor Mino?
Bonnie, just doing the math, does that mean in the end it would cost the town $5,000? If you take the revenues and the cost of ice for the month of April?
If you take the,
Like, I don't.
oh, I see what you mean, yeah, so you took the,
We got $6,000 of revenues, give or take,
yep,
and then it costs us 14.3 for a month.
yes, yep,
So I'm saying 3 weeks. So the cost to the town will be $5,000 if we keep those 3 weeks.
I think more.
With the same revenue generated.
If it's costing us 14,000 and our revenue is 2, 3, 4, 5, it would cost us about 9? Yeah,
Okay.
No, I'm jumping out.
Yes, Councillor Shamiard?
It says 14,000 more per month. So there's already a cost in there.
oh, yes, there's already a hydro
What-
cost.
What's the cost already?
Okay, so it's $25,000,
Oh.
$26,000 a month for hydro. That's what our monthly costs
Yeah,
are.
so it's 26 plus 14.
When you take the ice out, we're down to, $11,000 a month, things like that. Like, you can tell the difference when you look at our monthly bills. As soon as that plant goes on, our energy costs go up drastically.
Oh, so the cost of the ice itself would be about 14.
Yes. That's the difference in energy costs between a month with,
We still have 11,000 regular.
yes, absolutely we do. Yeah, that's not, that's,
much, eh?
I know.
Does that make sense? Who the hell is the book?
Lights.
So if we close on April 1st,
Yes.
what do we save?
Probably about $9,000 of hydro, but we also lose about,
So $14,000 nitro.
well, if it's the full month, yes. Yeah, so net 9,000, absolutely,
So it costs us 9,000.
yes.
So,
It's significant, and that's why I'm bringing it up here, and I know it's
And the problem
it's
is that's
tough.
only 5 kids, that's what.
yeah, but
There's
I'm
more
also
kids in the
thinking,
spring school, but those are the only ones that need that high test day. The rest
Also,
can test in the low test day, which we could schedule any day.
but it's is it not the Figure Skating Club's 100th
Yes,
anniversary
yes.
this year? And maybe there could be some events organized around that to offset that cost, if that's doable with our activity coordinator and all that,
If they were interested,
I'm tempted to say that we should maybe extend the season one more year of maybe the second week of April, just to see if there's interest enough to get those rentals out there. I mean, you're probably not rented very much, like the private rentals and all that.
no, we had, private rentals, we had the last week only 1 hour
Yeah,
at $50.
so if we had a marketing sort of pitch to try to offset that revenue and extend it for 1 year, could we break even?
No, we wouldn't break even.
No, make 9,000?
Yeah. We pump it up as much as we can. Come and rent the ice, we're on social media, we're on the radio. By that time, the leagues are done, people are kind of moving on to spring.
And that's why Norman, Timmins, Cap, and Sudbury, they charge
Yeah.
30%.
The shoulder season.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, they charge more. We still wouldn't even get close to the.
Our local clubs have a difficult time now paying our regular rates, right? To put on another 30% would be probably worse than
They'd
closing
struggle,
it
I
early.
think. I think they'd struggle.
But I guess keeping it open a little longer would also meet the needs or the needs of the rec league. Because last year rec league found out in the middle of the season sort of that they were going to be cut off earlier, right?
But we didn't.
Yeah.
So they went, they
went
they
to
had
the
2
end.
hours the last week. The last week of ice, they had 2 hours. Rec
Yeah.
league rented that
But
last week of
didn't we
ice.
close a bit earlier last year?
No, just we
Okay.
started late, we're
We
starting
started
later
late.
this August. We went right to the same last year.
Okay.
And the other thing just to keep in mind that I haven't brought up is we do host a junior team in Kirkland Lake. And if they went far into the playoffs, we have always said that we would not take the ice out from underneath them. So that hasn't happened the last little while. Like when we hosted the Dudley, obviously, we kept the ice in later, but
Councillor Ruman?
Like, I would suspect the other two towns have a similar problem, and have you had discussions with them about, do they have any intentions of cutting back on their?
they don't. I've spoken with the towns in our area just to say, do you do shoulder season? And they're kind of the way we were up until last year. They just went with the request of their user groups.
Councillor Shamiard?
What about Engelhard Lister, did they close early too? Do we know?
Engelhart closes very early, but Liskard, no, they they keep their ice in until their high test day as well. And I think they put their ice in like early summer, because they do a summer test day for skaters in Liskeard as well. I think their ice is in, probably going in soon.
But that was last year.
Yes, yeah, that's true.
Councillor Morgan.
We budgeted for this $9,000,
Yes.
right?
Well, for this year.
For this year.
Yeah, so now we're talking
Not this
next
We're talking about
2018 April, so I haven't budgeted for that yet. So the timing is kind of right if we're going to make a change for any reason, whether it's budget reasons or letting user groups know.
Well, the 100th anniversary kind of pulls at my heartstrings, and that's why. But those groups need to know that this is the problem that we are going to deal with. Do they know right now that we could cut them off?
Absolutely. I was very upfront with Skating Club. The only one I just had a recent conversation with was Skating Club, because it does drastically affect them. The other groups, to the best of my understanding, they'd be fine.
Yeah,
Councillor Shan.
we talked to Mary last year, and because she was afraid we were gonna cut last year, or this year. And she knows that there's talking about this, that she wanted to be cut, no, but
Yes. They're very aware that this discussion is happening and that I was getting
But they have to
feedback from them.
understand that $9,000, the taxpayers' dollar money
Mhm.
for 5 kids or whatever it is,
Yep.
is a little out of whack. Like, that they have to know that this is coming down the pipe. We're either gonna have to cough up some more money, or we're gonna have to cut the season back. So I don't see how they can, in all good conscience, expect the taxpayers to come to the plate for that kind of money for that few number of children. I mean, sorry, but pinch, something's gotta give somewhere, and I think I'd be willing to go one more year because of the 100th anniversary, but, that's kind of where I'm sitting on this.
So because of the 100th anniversary, we'd be going into 2019 now, right?
2018. So
18.
Their 100th anniversary is September to April, 2017 to 2018.
The skating club's 100th
Yes.
anniversary. Okay. I thought you meant ours. Yeah.
Yeah, no, it's the clubs.
Their, skating
It's the
Yeah.
clubs.
anniversary,
Yeah.
Yeah. Councillor Shamier.
And I would be happy with that too. You have to remember, Tony, I mean, a lot of kids do, and parents do a lot of sacrifice. They bring their, Bonnie did, brought their kids to Timmins play hockey for a couple of years. Some go to North Bay to play hockey because there's no hockey in town, and other sports too, basketball, etc. I mean, for a week or two, those 5 kids have to go to Liskeard or Timmins. It'd be sad, but it's life, I mean, at some point. It's a lot of money at the end of the day. We're not talking $400, we're talking thousands. But like Todd said, I would say, I could stay 1 more year, then maybe after that, cut a week or cut 10 days, or, and then at that time, they would have to travel maybe a couple of times to go to practice. I don't know how many times they practice every day, normally usually, but they could go down to two twice a week, I guess, or 2 times a week. Yeah. 2 times a week, yeah. And it's not the winter, we're talking traveling this time of year, not this time of year, but in April, which the roads are good, those hockey players, they go, no. But,
Yep.
I'll tell you, like, so it's sad, but.
In speaking with the coach, one thing I should let you know as well is she said that they would have to think hard about whether they would actually host a spring school if the season was cut. So I just think they would have to then, they themselves, the club would have to think, is it worth it to do a 4-week spring school and do a low test day? Is it worth it to do a 3-week? Is it only worth it if we do a 5-week? She didn't tell me the answer to that. I think she'd like us to believe it's only worth it to do a 5-week, but that's something they, she just said, well, you might lose all 5 weeks. So that is the potential. We would lose 5 weeks of the skating club revenue, but we have to remember is that their revenue doesn't even touch our costs. So, I mean, if we could take the ice out 5 weeks earlier, the cost factor would be much better for the town. So I don't think that's what she wanted me to twist it as, but that's the
Councillor
reality.
Bonnie, I appreciate, we did ask you to come back with alternate suggestions. The complex is never going to make money, we know that. I think for $9,000, I could at least wait another year or two. It's not a significant amount. It all adds up when we look in the whole picture, but I'd support leaving it as it is, at least for this year, or for 2018.
So, the start date seems to be, we have general consent. The start date doesn't seem to be an issue with really any of the.
No, we had talked
users.
about putting the ice in even later. The main user group that would affect in August would be the gold miners, because they want to start their training camp this year on the 21st. And then we're able to offer 2 different hockey schools in those last 2 weeks before school start that generate enough money that I feel a bit more comfortable with putting the ice in. And then that's just that. We get the occasional private rentals, we'll stick some toonie skates in, so we generate a little bit more as well. So from my impression, the August start date of mid-August works well for everybody.
So,
I have a resolution that's moved by Councillor Morgan, seconded by Councillor Mino. The council approves option number 1 from the Director of Community Services report for the 2017-2018 ice season to accommodate the skating club's 100th anniversary.
all in favor? That's unanimous. And I guess you'll be bringing this back the next.
You'll keep seeing me. And perhaps we will see, we haven't really noticed a reduction yet in our hydro dollars. I know we're supposed to see it now. Of course, our use has crept up a little bit, and so we're trying to keep control of that. And it'll be interesting once we have the new aquatic center online, because our utility bills for the new aquatic center will be taken out of the rest of the building. Right now, our utility bills are for the whole building. So it's very hard to determine. I mean, you can see for part of it, you take the ice offline, and this is what your changes are, but we can't really tell the rest. So it'll be even easier once we can pull the pool out.
Well, when the pool was down for a week or 2, did we not see a difference, or? That has to be the pool.
Yeah, well, only 12% of our hydro bill is actual usage. The other
Yeah.
88% is.
Yeah, so.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So. So the proposed civic user fees.
So just a couple things to think about, and we'd like to bring this back at the next meeting. We haven't had a ton of requests for private rentals, but we wanted to make sure that we do have some pricing guidelines in effect for when a group does want to do a private rental. So just as a reminder, Civic Park is open to the public, free of charge, every single day. We now have activity coordinators that are on site, and I posted that schedule for you. So, between the hours of 1 and 6 days out of 7, there's a staff member there that's going to lend out equipment. So that's not what we're talking about at all. We're only talking about if a group wants to have complete use of the pavilion for their event, or complete use of the ball field. So I have a few prices down here, and I've indicated the ones that are already in the current user fees, so that these have already been passed. So we're not really, I'm just showing you that as a variable, and something that we can compare the rest to. So the baseball field prices, that's already been approved by council. So we have an adult rate, and then we have a youth rate. So what we did when we looked at what prices could be for the other areas, we looked at what our arena rental rate is for dead ice, and we took 50% of that, because we don't have a staff member here catering to your every whim. We don't have all the amenities that the community complex has. So we just thought we wanted to keep the pricing as low as we could, however, recoup some of the costs that we would have for staffing, cleanup, preparation. And also, we believe you should have to pay a rate if you want exclusive use of something. So if it's, we've had a request from the rollerblade girls, can they come and rollerblade? So they're just going to join into the regular community time for rollerblading, and they're looking at if they want to rent it just for them. We said we'd have a price after council approves it for that reason. So pavilion, multipurpose court, beach volleyball court, we put the same sort of scenario where the adults pay a flat rate and the youth pay 25% less than the adult rate. When you take a look at the entire park, and just remember, this is not for a ball tournament, so you can't just say, I'm going to rent the entire park and then run a ball tournament, because it wouldn't equate. But 2 of the rates are new, and 2 of the rates are what we already have in our current user fees. So the first one, nonprofit, free event, open to the public. So an example of this would be, say, the Rotary Club, the past couple of years have done a children's games day out at Kinross. So there's been no charge to them. We've allowed them to use that park. I could see them in the future saying, hey, could I use Civic? So what I thought, something like that, it's free, it's open to the public, it's a nonprofit group. If we just charged our actual setup and cleanup costs, it could be nothing to them. So if they don't require any setup or cleanup and they don't cause a great disturbance in the park, they could have it absolutely free. If they leave a disaster and I'm sending staff over there for 4 hours to clean up, we bill back. So it's kind of that same billing back to the user group concept that we have now. The next one is a current user fee, so it's a nonprofit, and there is a cost to the public, so it's $254.46 a day, and that's what we currently have for either the arena floor or Civic Park. Local commercial or pub is $8.75, and that's a current user fee as well. So those ones are already set. And then the last one is a new one, so a local business for a private event. So I could see, I don't know, Kale Gold one day, can I rent the whole entire park for a staff picnic or an employee appreciation day? So that means the park's closed to the public, and we allow them to use it if that's something that council wants to see, because we will have that request. So we came up with $450 for the day or $100 an hour if they're just there for a short period of time. And we always put plus setup and cleanup, which does encourage the user group to not leave a great disgrace at the end of their event. So these are suggested rates, certainly open for discussion, but we do need to, if we want to pass them at the next meeting, we do have to come up with rates tonight so that we have that public notice period.
Councillor Kiley.
Bonnie, first of all, congratulations to the staff of Kirkland Lake for Canada Day celebrations. It was a bang-up job. As I mentioned to you earlier today, nothing but good comments. I mentioned about the canteen, and one of the church groups, I believe, got free usage of it. And I'd like to see us, seeing that there wasn't anybody, when we tendered it, there wasn't any
Yep, no one has
response
submitted a
at
bid.
all.
We had one gentleman who was interested, but then once he had to give us, his menu and he wasn't in the food business, and he thought, oh, this is not the year for me, so.
I would encourage us to let local nonprofit groups to make use of that canteen if there's opportunities for them to put on different events, especially if they're paying for the use of the pavilion or other parts of the park. But
Great idea.
again, great job. It was a credit to Kirkland Lake, I'll tell you that.
We had both the physical services department and the recreation department staff working very hard to get things ready. You need a deadline, right, in order to get it all done, and they met the deadline, so thank you.
Okay, Councillor Mino.
Bonnie, just a scenario if I'm gonna use a lady slopage, they want to run a tournament there. They want to run, they'll rent the ball diamond, but they might want to use the canteen as well. And they might want to run maybe a parallel volleyball. What would it cost them?
Well, you know what, I didn't reflect that in there. You know what we've done, we could maybe echo what we do at the community complex. So if it's a user group, so that would be figure skating, aquatic club, whatever, so same as slow pitch. If a user group wants an auxiliary room while they're doing their rental period, we don't charge them for it. So right now at the complex, if it's minor hockey who's putting on a tournament and they want to use the blue line room to have a pizza party for their kids, we don't, I mean, if they wanted to rent the pool, we'd charge them. But if it's auxiliary space, so maybe we could say the canteen is auxiliary space, kind of building on Councillor Kiley's idea, and they could use that. Now, if they wanted to, if the pavilion was the auxiliary space to perhaps do a pizza party, same idea. Possibly.
Well, as long as that potential is there, because
Yeah.
that could be an incentive for people to run a tournament, and then they'll run the concession as cost sort of saving measures or break it even, because tournaments don't usually break even with the price structure and all that they have, so.
Yeah, and probably this summer and fall, we should see all the different types of rentals people are looking for, and, we might have to tweak it again.
Absolutely. We just wanted to have something to bring
Yep.
to our users. However, I have a feeling that after we lived a season of it, we may need to and when we bring back user fees in December, I may have some suggestions then.
Yes, Councillor
Yeah,
Shamier.
yeah, Bonnie, at the end of the day, we want that place to be used.
Absolutely.
And I could tell you, in the last 2 weeks, you could see more and more people every day in there. I come home at 6 and you know, the first day there was 2, now there's 4, and yes, last night it was like 10 people there, and it goes up all the time, and
It will. And
That's
as
what-
people realize what our
Yeah.
schedule's like and when they can come and grab the tennis rackets and things like that, I think it'll
yeah,
get busier.
yeah.
And Mother Nature's on our side this week.
I know.
Councillor Mino.
Bonnie, as I look at this schedule, some of the activities, are they all supervised?
Yes. So if the activity's on that sheet, there's a staff member there.
Okay, for liability purposes and everything?
Yes.
Okay,
Yep.
thank you.
And the washrooms are open and we've got equipment for use, so.
I just wanted to clarify with you, Bonnie, I'm hearing an advertisement on our local station soliciting people to use and urging people to use the park, and that there's free rental of equipment.
Yeah.
But as it goes on, they talk about the rental.
Yeah, that's probably the wrong word, isn't it? Free
Well,
use is a better
Free-
word.
Yes, so it would be, so people know that, you know, if they want to have their daughter or son introduced to tennis, that there is some tennis rackets there that they could use free of charge. you know?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah, and we have a sign-in, sign-out sheet, and we don't,
Yeah.
it's a little different than our skis. Our skis, you have to give us your keys or your $20 or whatever. We know that's not gonna happen with kids. They're not gonna have that. So, we have staff there. So they sign in, sign out. Fingers crossed that if the basketball goes out, it comes back
Yep.
in, but there are staff there to watch, so
That's great.
I think we'll be good.
Yep, that's great. And we have a resolution pertaining to this.
It's moved by Councillor Kiley, seconded by Councillor Barker, that council approves the 2017 Civic Park user fees as presented by the Director of Community Services and directs that a bylaw be brought forth to the next open meeting.
All in favor? Carried. Thank you. Thank you, Bonnie. The next item is item 6.4. Well, for the Director of Physical Service, Town Planner. Going to come up, talk about surplus land.
Yes, this is just a resolution to declare a piece of property as surplus. In the actual drawing, it does appear that these are highlighted as well. They aren't. That's actually green as Crown land. So if you had it colored, it would show that it was only reflecting the piece on the south portion of Highway 112. I just figured I'd reiterate that. Oh, sir. Perfect, yeah. So you see the green, that's just identifying either Crown land or flagged parcels in our GIS system. So only the black portion is, for the intent of this resolution, is being declared surplus. Is there any questions? I will
It's
get.
moved by Councillor Barker, seconded by Councillor Kiley, that council declare the following piece of property along Highway 112 as surplus and available for sale. It's the southern portion of mining claim HR 7776.
All in favor? That's carried. Okay. The next item is the approval for funding from clean water, wastewater.
If you don't mind, Jessica, John, and Jason to come up, because they'll be handling different components of the
Yep.
project that I want for council's edification, but also for the public, if they have questions in that.
Just make sure, well, please, that all those mics are turned on.
Yep.
Thank you.
Okay, it has been a long time coming, but we have received funding for the Clean Water and Wastewater Fund. We have been on hold for a number of, well, for the largest component of that project. It is at 75% funding. It's a $1.3 million total project. It has 3 components to it. The O'Mara is the one that we're all waiting for, and we'll talk about that in the next report to council. It is basically paving, curb and gutters. Allen Avenue project, that's the running of the sanitary wastewater up to the new pool. That is complete. There's a little bit of cleaning up yet left to do with that, but substantially complete. And then we have the upgrade of 2 highlight pumps, and that's what Aqua is taking care of under the capital project. So when you look at the whole CWWF for 1.3, we're doing fairly substantial work around the community. And of course, the one that will have the most impact now will be O'Mara, and that will be the next topic. So.
Okay, that'll come back with the bylaw for that.
Thanks. So the second one is the awarding of the contract for O'Mara Boulevard grade and utility, curb, gutter, boulevard, and sidewalk reconstruction project. We did hold a tender, and we're recommending that it be awarded to Peterson Construction for a tender amount of 1.1 plus some change. It is again funded at 75%. Town's portion is 25%, and of that, a portion is being drawn from the Waterworks reserves. So they were the lower of the two tenders. The construction project itself will commence probably in mid-August, when Peterson can get his people on the ground here. And we will be doing the Waterworks component in 2017. After that, the paving, curb, boulevard construction will move to next summer. We're simply too late into the season already.
Could I just ask, that that'll be early next summer, or
Well, we're
or do
looking
we
at
have, will we
May,
have to do the, okay, make sure,
Yeah.
okay.
Is that
That's fine.
relevant to you
Yeah.
too? Yeah.
Which is early.
During the construction period, one of the things we have to watch out for is access and egress to the fire department. So we are looking into that. We do have some plans in place, and we'll be managing that with the contractors. As well, the other issue would obviously be access for residents, for ambulatory, for whatever else. Again, all that will be managed on a case-by-case basis, and that's actually why I've asked for the gentleman to join me. Chris will be doing, I can't say his name, Shiroka, will be doing a lot of the on-site supervision. Dixit will be doing the contract administration and project administration, and any impact on municipal infrastructure will be going through Don Parcher. And that is, again, as we go through some changes at the department, these two gentlemen will be there handling it, so I do want to introduce them to council. There will be I think, good communication with the public. We've gone through this obviously before. Notifications will be sent out to the residents affected about waste collection, noise, dust, etc. Again, for the public, if there are issues, we would like to have them reported to the Department of Physical Services, and Denise will direct them to the appropriate people. The Physical Services staff participation directly will be fairly limited, like I say, contract, site supervision, infrastructure, but we'll also be handling inventory in some regards, access to water, making sure everything else goes on. So you're going to see a mix of staff and contractors out there. Again, our staff are in charge. That's really it.
And that'll be coming back as a bylaw as well? Okay.
Okay, thank you.
Wolf, just a quick, exactly where does it start, where does it finish?
There was a review. Can you
Here,
click on
yeah,
it?
here is a map attached with it.
Okay, got it here.
So there was a section pointed out to me previously on Prospect that there is an exceptionally deep pothole.
Yeah.
They're gonna fill that in.
Oh.
For those poor people going to get the fish and chips, that shakes it loose a little bit. And you'll see that it is part of an overall project that the town began quite a while ago to replace the core infrastructure along that stretch. So it is contributing to that.
If I could also add,
Please.
with this extension, it also benefits McKelvey-McCamus infrastructure for the new upgrades, because Prospect has been completed back through to Premier Avenue, which is one of the trunk mains, the 16-inch water main. So this extension is a continuation, basically, of previous construction and upgrades. So this will benefit as well for the McKelvey-McCamus upgrading.
Councillor Mino, or, sorry. Councillor Roman.
Just curious, will the road width that exists on Prospect with the, currently, is that the road width that's gonna continue up O'Meara?
So basically, as per the example, we have about like 8 meters of the roadway. Usually earlier construction, like you see the south end of the Duncan was a 7 meter, which is literally narrow. Like even looking at the Wood Street, like we just come back to the narrow. Of course, we have paved boulevard, but we can still, cause we have rock cut on one side of the face and one side local residents, cause different elevations on the one side to the other side. So that's why we are looking at the possibilities, cause we are planning to shifting some road alignment a little bit just to get away from the blasting or the extra occur cost. But on the other side, we will look for the same tactics. Depend on the available money, we can end up paving the boulevard if we require to, because there is only one side of the boulevard, because another phase limited to the rock face, which is gonna be excavated during construction, but there is a overlaying rock. So we're gonna go with the 8 meters at this point, so which is gonna be enough width with compared to our earlier projects, which is feasible and more accessible to the public.
So we're trying to make it wider, but we don't know yet.
So we'll have a sidewalk or one sidewalk going down?
Yeah.
On the east side, I
Yeah.
guess. they would make.
One of the things that is coming up in the future, CWWF has released again for another round, and it's, I have 1.1 million or 1.2 million?
No, that's additional to our OCIF.
Okay.
That's our third round, because last 2 years we were successful receptionists for $2 million, which was the top of funding application. But last year we weren't qualified because we top up our funding. So like this year they come up with which is gonna be 2018 intact. So like they already said that every eligible municipalities, like they have their set amount we can apply for. So we already got the letters for $1.2 million. So basically, which is gonna be 25%, like 10% for municipality. But basically on that, we can apply, which is application based.
So that would be coming
Yeah.
back to council in September.
Yeah.
Okay, that would be for another project?
Yeah, that's a continuation of the Wood Street Phase 3.
Yeah.
Councillor Shamiard?
Yeah, so Don, so all the sewer is done from Premier all the way up Prospect almost?
Yeah, to Taylor, Brookbank
Okay.
intersection, sewer, water, and then they did Taylor at the same time.
Oh,
So Taylor is completed as far as LaBelle, actually just the crescent of
Yeah, yeah,
Taylor
yeah.
towards Park Street.
Don't go
That's
over
completed, so that's, I don't think phase 3 will get that portion.
so all the trouble we had, well, we still have trouble, but would that help a lot? It could probably be,
Well, our goal, it is working to resolve those problem areas. We may see, because right at this time, Elmira is a dead-end system as well.
oh,
So
okay.
we're looking at looping, that's why we're going as far as the fire hall at McCamus.
Okay, okay.
We're looking at looping that system in, so that may or should help.
Yeah, cause
hopefully
the fire
increase-
hall we thought was a problem, yeah.
Yeah, and this should help increase,
Oh,
as you loop systems in, it helps flows and
Yeah.
pressures and stuff, I believe, so
Oh.
it should help that, benefit that way.
I'm just trying to show you, like, on the GIS system, what the whole concept is, like, whole design part. Just this icon.
Need a mouse, that's it.
Yeah, I can, oh, here, that's better.
There you go.
There's, yeah. Okay. So yeah, so as you look at the screen, like our Wood Street part was like all the way from the south end coming up on the King Street, then Comfort Street, Poplar Street, we are coming up. Right now, as our third phase, we say there's gonna be end up like at the Taylor Avenue, cause we are like right at the intersection of Comfort. This thing already been designs and everything, so that's what we're gonna put in the plan. Like this construction from here was recently done, so we're gonna include that phase 2 as our proposed project. And going up towards it, like this gonna include McKelvey and McCamus going down all the way towards the Prospect and connecting to here. So which is all gonna be looped in, and as per our, this is classified our drainage area D2, which is potential. That's why is all gonna be included, but it is like phase-wise project because we have limited funding every time. So we are working our way up.
But this all ties in with the project we started 2 or 3 years ago at the
That's
south
right.
Yeah.
end of Queen.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we're
Right.
heading in the same
Progressive.
direction,
Yeah.
that's
Yeah.
fantastic.
Yeah.
And all intended to handle the major problems that are in that area.
Yeah.
It's just that it's a
and
huge
the
issue.
the problem is that McCamus, McKelvey, that was,
Exactly.
yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, takes time.
Okay, and that's going to come back as a bylaw as well?
Perfect.
So the next item is the demolition of,
Okay. I have to sign, or call up the report, because the report that you have in your document is missing a page. So, you can move back to
Review page?
the main tab.
Yeah, there. What? They give you a hard time.
Okay, Taylor, the Orthodox Church on Taylor Avenue, it's been looked at quite a bit for quite a few number of years, actually. We've looked at fixing it up. There was no money for that. We looked at replicating it somewhere else. I think there was, Lajeunesse, I think at the time quoted us about $250,000-$300,000. We looked at bringing bits and pieces of it and sticking it onto a new setting. Reality is, there's no money for it. It's another, we're creating another asset to maintain and manage. And it's basically, it's a dead end. The church, we've left it. It's falling apart. It's not a healthy situation. There's cracks in the foundation, and the recommendation is that nothing can be really done with it. We need to take it down. It is an emotional issue for many people in the community, so I put forward some of the different options that could be looked at. Now, we could delay the demolition and attempt another rescue. I don't think that's going to work. There's less funding now than there ever was before. Demolish and put up a small parquet or other reminder of the church on the same lot. Again, it's a very small lot in an area where tourists aren't going to go. It lacks the visibility and profile, and it would be, again, an additional expense to the corporation. You could demolish, sell the lot, place a small memorial in front of the lot. Again, not recommended, because that memorial will interfere with private use of the lot, while the memorial placed in front of the lot would be destroyed probably in short order with snow clearing operations and that. Demolish and put the lot for sale, probably the neighbors would buy it. It's a small lot. One of the two would take it, or both would be sharing it. Last one, I would ask council to consider, if this is of importance to it, place a plaque and a bench at Kinross or any other established park that celebrates the church and its history, and put that up for sponsorship or private donation. You're still maintaining the memory. You can put a Q code on there, link it over to an online exhibit that talks a lot more about the church, gives that. It's doable. It preserves the memory, allows us to move forward with the property. That's a suggestion.
Okay, and that'll be coming back as a bylaw as well? No? Oh, just a resolution? Okay, sorry.
Because it's already in the capital budget, it's already budgeted for.
For
I do
demolition.
believe the staff is just looking for council's
Okay.
approval to let you know that this is the way they intended to do. So I have a motion that's moved by Councillor Kiley, and it's seconded by Councillor Barker, that council approves the demolition of the former Orthodox Church on Taylor Avenue.
And place the property for sale, or was that come after? Oh, Councillor Rowland. Yeah. Yeah, I think, unless we're all in, okay. Thank you. Oh, okay, who's doing the site? Okay, Ashley, okay. You gonna read that again?
If you'd like me to, yeah.
Okay, we're
So-
just gonna read that resolution one more time.
That council approves the demolition of the former Orthodox Church on Taylor Avenue and place a plaque and/or bench commemorating the history of the church.
Not on the property, but
No,
at
no,
some location.
wherever at some discretion.
All in favor? Okay, that's carried. Okay, Ashley?
Hello, I'm back. Okay, so I'm pretty sure council's aware of the challenges we were having on Station Road South with Central School, mostly just the traffic congestion during pickup and drop-off hours. So I've been working with them alongside other staff, coming up with a solution to try and resolve that traffic congestion in that area. Last year, we actually put in a no parking zone on the east side of Station Road so that we wouldn't have to worry about people dropping kids off, running into the school, leaving their cars running. I think it's worked relatively well. At this point, though, they have applied for a site plan control agreement to do some modifications to the property, so that's what I'm here to talk to you about tonight. They're doing this through the site plan control agreement process, so it's a public planning process. We bring you a site plan and an agreement that we draft, and the regulations within the agreement are pretty standard. They talk about, the parking requirements, pedestrian activity, or pedestrian access to the property, and so on. It's pretty straightforward, and I think we've provided you with the site plan control agreement to read if you'd like. In this instance here, what they're planning on doing, and you can see it in the drawing that I just gave you. So the only difference between the drawing that's been handed out separately and the one that you had in the council package was that we made them put down in there that there was snow storage areas and the garbage containers identified. So that's the only difference. Grading and everything is all the same. So what they're planning on doing is a secondary access. So instead of coming in only one way, they're actually going to roundabout it. So they're going to come in this way and come out this way. This is based on my communication with the engineers that they're working with. It's actually going to eliminate the accessibility school bus pickup on street on station. They're going to be able to utilize this roundabout, come in, drop off, and come back out. The school buses have been loading in the back area for the last this school year. They plan on continuing to do that, so there will not be a need for the loading zone on station anymore. So that'll assist it there as well. There is 2 parking spaces identified just by the gate where the gate's typically closed, but they open it during garbage day so that the garbage truck can come in and get the garbage from the bin that's in this area here. So there's 2 parking spots there. They'll obviously be capable of being used on non-garbage pickup days, but when the garbage is being picked up, they're gonna have to make sure that those 2 aren't used. So the parking itself, they've got parking in the back along the outer edge of this, I guess, little turnaround area for the school buses, and then they've added additional parking along the front access as well. So is there any questions on this one?
Just, so the turnaround for the buses, drop off and pick up, is that also for the parents?
So
Where will the parents drop off? and
yeah,
pick
so the
up?
school buses actually use the back, so they use the north portion. The only one that uses the front is the accessibility bus, because the only door that's accessible to the school is the main entrance. So that's why you would still see that school bus loading zone on station, because the main access was on in the front entrance. So the parents will use that same roundabout as the accessible bus
Okay.
to drop off.
I don't see an issue when they're dropping off, but there may be an issue when they're picking up, because there's a great number of cars that still park along the east side, pick up their children
Okay.
and wait. And is there enough room for those people to wait? Like, children don't all come out at the same time, so if the early ones get there and their children comes out late. I mean, it's going towards solving the problem. I don't know if it'll reduce what we see on the road now, but that is the intention,
It
right?
is the intent. So the west side of Station Road is the school bus loading zones. There should be no parking there no matter what, even right now, the way it sits.
Yep.
We ended up implementing the no parking on the other side so that we ensured there was no congestion. No parking is, you can't leave your car and go in. If you're sitting in the driving seat, you're stalled.
Okay. I
So
see.
that's different. Like if you're sitting there waiting for your kid, you can still have the ability to move your vehicle if you need to.
Okay. So they could be on the east side waiting. I guess the only danger there is the children have to cross the road, right? But
Yes.
that's the parents' responsibility as well, isn't it? Okay, thank you.
I think it is a relatively good situation, and we'll assess it this year once
Yep.
it's implemented and
It-
see
it-
whether or not we can take out that.
The whole situation has gotten better last
Yeah.
year, and it's continuing to get better, so yeah, we're heading in the right direction for sure.
Okay, so that's coming back up as a bylaw.
Okay, thank you. So we have now the introduction and reading of consideration of the bylaws.
Okay, the first one is moved by Councillor Barker, seconded by Councillor Kiley, that bylaw 17-070, being a bylaw to appoint and delegate administrative powers to the Chief Administrative Officer, be read a first, second, and third time, enacted and passed.
All in favor? Carried.
Moved by Councillor Kiley, seconded by Councillor Barker, that bylaw 17-071, being a bylaw to amend bylaw 11-062, extending the funding agreement with the Green Infrastructure Fund for the Kirkland Lake wastewater treatment plant, file 21707, be read a first, second, and third time, enacted and passed.
All in favor? It's carried, thank you.
It's moved by Councillor Barker, seconded by Councillor Kiley, that bylaw 17-072, being a bylaw to authorize mayor and clerk to execute a funding agreement with Infrastructure Ontario for the Clean Water and Wastewater Fund for funding towards 3 projects: the O'Meara Boulevard upgrade, Allen Avenue upgrade, the pump upgrade at the water treatment plant, be read a first, second, and third time, enacted and passed.
All in favor? It's carried, thank you.
It's moved by Councillor Kiley, seconded by Councillor Barker, that bylaw 17-073, being a bylaw to authorize the mayor to negotiate and execute an employment contract for Chief Administrative Officer with Peter C. Augustus, be read a first, second, and third time, enacted and passed.
All in favor? Carried, thank you.
It's moved by Councillor Barker, seconded by Councillor Kiley, that bylaw 17-074, being a bylaw to appoint the treasurer as the assessment review board negotiator and the clerk as the complaint representative, be read a first, second, and third time, enacted and passed.
All in favor? Carried, thank you.
It's moved by Councillor Kiley, seconded by Councillor Barker, that bylaw 17-075, being a bylaw to authorize mayor and clerk to execute a contract with Peterson Construction for O'Meara Boulevard grade and utility, cut, gutter, boulevard, and sidewalk reconstruction project, be read a first, second, and third time, enacted and passed.
All in favor? It's carried, thank you.
It's moved by Councillor Barker, seconded by Councillor Kiley, that bylaw 17-076, being a bylaw to authorize a site plan control agreement with District School Board Ontario Northeast at 23 Station Road, Central Public School, be read a first, second, and third time, and enacted and passed.
All in favor? That's carried, thank you. Item 8, notices of motion. See none. Confirmation bylaw.
It's moved by Councillor Kiley, seconded by Councillor Barker, that bylaw 17-077, being a bylaw to confirm the proceedings of council at its meeting held July 11th, 2017, be read a first, second, and third time, enacted and passed.
All in favor? Thank you. Councilors' reports. Councilor Mino.
Yeah, I would like to just speak to you about the DSAB resolution that this municipality enacted and asked the other municipalities. Regrettably, the decision by the board was that they would not want to withdraw reserves from their accounts and return them to the municipality. Now, my point is that the municipalities had asked this through the Kirkland Lake municipality, because we initiated this as a municipality. You directed Councillor Morgan and I to pursue this on behalf of the municipality, but also to look at the best interest of the DSAB wearing that hat as well. I'd like to thank Joanne for compiling the sheet I've handed out to you people. Joanne did an awful lot of work on this, consulting municipalities. My beef is that this report, or this summary report of all the municipalities, all 23 of them that were involved in this process, was mostly dismissed by the chair and the CEO at the DSAB, and therefore was not given proper opportunity to be discussed, to be digested. To the contrary, it was actually questioned as to its validity. It was also questioned as to how the motions were brought forward, and they were not given to the DSAB per se. It was questioned as to why the clerk was doing this work on behalf of Kirkland Lake when this work should have been done by the DSAB. And obviously it was not done by the DSAB, therefore the municipalities took it upon themselves to send that message. So in summary, just so I can take a minute here to explain to you, if you look at the first column, that's the population of each municipality of the Temiskaming. Now, 14 of 23 municipalities were in favor of this, if you look at that. Then if you look at the non-support, the numbers are there, and they total 37%, and therefore if I'm looking at the first aspect of the guiding principle of DSAB, is that 54.48% of the population represented was in favor of withdrawal of the reserve funds. Also, if you look at the second component of the double majority of the DSAB's guiding principle, 14 of 23, which is 60.9% of municipalities. The message was quite clear. The chair decided to dismiss it and tried to force down the vote. There was also, prior to that, there was also some discussion as to remove more funds from the reserves for other purposes, which agreeably we did. But anyways, the point was, the whole day started with $4.2 million in the operating reserves from the DSAB. We took away 1.1 million for the housing, so there would have been technically left 3.3, and therefore, Councillor Morgan and I, we proposed that $1 million be returned to municipalities, and that was defeated through a tie vote. It was 4-4, and therefore the $1 million that we had suggested, knowingly that we were leaving some funds there for future reference, and we were also admitting that the social housing needed some funds. It was completely disregarded anyways, and so my beef here is that the DSAB, which is an ongoing argument, there's always a question as to, as board members, we sit on that board, which hat do we wear? And my guiding principle is that the municipalities are the bosses of the DSAB in the end. And this was ignored. I'm not happy with that, and I don't know what to do next, but the thing is that in this instance, democracy did not prevail. You want to add, Todd?
Certainly, Councillor.
If I could. There's no question. I mean, the voice of the district was not listened to. And I must admit, and I agree with Norm, that some of the comments that were made at the table were really beneath some of the members that were there. And to dismiss the work that was done by Kirkland Lake, that this was somehow bogus and not appropriately done, or the like of it, it was really personally insulting, and I did take exception to it. And the other problem that we're very quickly realizing with DSAB and the way that it's structured is the fact that there's 2 representatives on the board that represent unorganized areas that have absolutely no skin in the game. They do not contribute directly to the welfare of DSAB. The province contributes from our tax dollars, from everybody else's tax dollars, on their behalf to DSAB. Yet they have a full vote when it comes to issues like this, and that to me is troubling. It's you've got 2 people there. I'm not picking on those individuals as individuals, but what they represent is troubling when it comes to issues like this. They have no skin in the game, and they're not there representing a municipality, or particularly with financial matters like this. And so, yes, I'm equally disappointed, and I'm not sure what the next step is.
Councillor Chamiard.
Yeah, Tom, just that you know, at TMA, there was also people like this, if not remember, and they were asked to leave because they can't, how could they vote on something when they have no financial involvement at all? Like, and they were 2 really good guys, actually, because I enjoy really their background, and they had a good background. But at the end of the day,
There's no question that there has to be representation from the unorganized areas on certain issues. I get that. But when it comes to money issues, I mean, you're right. They shouldn't be allowed to vote on these issues. Simple as that. And this is a problem with DSAB and the way that it's currently structured. So, I mean, it's a big concern for me personally.
Councillor Kiley.
Yes, Councillor Mino and Morgan and Joanne for putting this report together. A lot of work and effort went into this, and I'm sure that I can speak on behalf of the rest of council. We appreciate the efforts. We knew it was a battle going in, but thank you for going to bat.
Yeah, certainly, thank you for all that you've done representing our municipality. I think you're correct, Councillor Mino, when you say that when I appoint Councillor Mino and Councillor Morgan to the DSAB board, I appointed them as representatives of the town of Kirkland Lake to speak for their town on issues especially like this. And other board members should be in the same situation. You know, to me, the person that speaks for DSAB is the CAO of DSAB or the director. The rest represent municipalities. You know, I don't think the work was done in vain. You know, the game's not over yet. We'll come back to the drawing board, perhaps. Maybe we have to look at what you just pointed out, Councillor Morgan, is that should representatives on the DSAB that have no skin in the game have a vote on financial matters. And this is something that probably has to be changed through the internal or the bylaws of DSAB, but we could look, we could talk to other regions as to how they operate. I know Timmins is in a rebuilding that area, but it's a good point. And the result of them having a vote is it affects municipalities financially, and I don't think that should be the case. But again, thank you for all you've done. I don't think the game's over yet, so we can always get back and discuss this again. Nothing else? I just want to take a minute, congratulate Heath and Sherwood on the fact that they've been operating in Kirkland Lake continuously for 90 years. They're celebrating their 90th year of operation, of continuous operation in Kirkland Lake. There was a filming crew up to Town Hall today, and we did a short series, and they're going around town getting some other clips. So again, you know, congratulations to that company for being here continuously for 90 years, and we look forward to doing business with them another 90 years. So.
I have motions moved by Councillor Barker, seconded by Councillor Kiley. The council adjourned its regular meeting of July 11th, 2017 to an in-camera meeting to discuss one potential property acquisition and two personnel issues regarding identifiable individuals.
All in favor? Carried. Thank you. Meeting adjourned.